Hello, my name is Rudy Ruttimann, and I am the former Executive Director for Sketch Working Arts.
Hello everyone, my name is Paulina O'Kieffe-Anthony, and I am the current Executive Director for Sketch Working Arts. Welcome to our Fireside Chat, where today we are going to have a conversation about the awesome transition process that allowed this to occur.
Yeah.
Hey Rudy!
Hi Paulina, this is so exciting. I've been waiting to do this for so long.
Awesome,
Okay, great. I get to start. I get to ask the first question. So we're going to have a little chat by our fireside. It's a snowy day, so we thought we needed some fire. But we're just going to talk a little bit about this whole succession plan process, right? That we committed to a year ago. It was almost a year ago when we left on holidays, and I said, okay, are you good to go in the new position as Executive Director?
And here I am.
So we planned a whole year-long succession, and now we're going to just talk a little bit about what that's been like.
Yeah.
Okay. So my first question to you is, looking back at the plan that we put in place, what's been the most helpful part of the process for you during this time?
I think what's been the most helpful part is that I get to learn everything incrementally, and that you're still here. I think it would be such a challenge if I was just kind of thrust into the role and had to pick up and learn everything on my own. But because we've done things incrementally, I've been shadowing you, I've been learning from you as we go on through the year, and just kind of have your ongoing support just whenever I need that. I think it's really helped me have a lot of confidence in the role and get to learn things properly and kind of make less mistakes as I go along the way. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Well, what about you? It's been almost 6 months since you stepped out of the ED role at Sketch. And you took some well-deserved time off, which was nice.
Great.
And now you're in a new role. So how are you managing all these transitions?
Well, I mean, it's been both exciting and terrifying. I think recognizing and what it feels like to let go of something that you've done for so long. I think as any human, you're attached to it and it's part of your identity. So there are moments when you go, oh my gosh, who am I without this? Or do I make that call? Or do I answer that email? Do I, and so you're constantly in a transition for sure. And I think, if people leave the position right away, that might be the easier way. So we are, I think, in some ways doing it there is more challenges for, maybe for me more than you, but just that in that transition, but in a good way. It feels really, it has felt satisfying that at least I know I've given everything I can, and also having, been able to leave. Like I left for those 3 months and I didn't even look at my email, and that was phenomenal. In all my years, I've never been able to do that. So I think I think also having that break in between was really good to kind of also give you time to just not have me around it as well as be around. But yeah, so it's been an interesting time, and then the more you get used to it, the more exciting it becomes, because you start to see it in action. And I mean, I always had faith. That's why we invited you to do it. But it's like, it's also kind of fun to be there still watching it and get excited about it.
Yeah, well, I definitely am thankful that you left in the summertime during our slowest time. Nice to ramp up during the slow time.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. The fall is definitely a different story. Okay. So, Paulina, what's been going well for you in this new role?
I think what's been going well for me in this new role is a lot of things because of all the support I've been receiving. So just acclimating to kind of being able to do the day-to-day tasks that an executive director does. I think also the shifts in the way that I've noticed folks have already started to kind of embrace me in my leadership, both internally but also externally in the organization, that people are excited about that, excited about the change, which is partly why I took on this role. I wanted folks to be excited about change at Sketch. I think that's been really important for me in terms of just moving forward in this role and feeling confident about it, just getting down the day-to-day stuff, especially when you were kind of like on your break, just making sure I could handle those things, that everything that needed to be done from like HR to finance and stuff, my team has been incredible in picking up whatever their role is, and then my goal has just been to find myself in each of those departments and how I'm kind of like moving from being in a role where I'm running that department and having to do the work versus kind of sitting at this higher level trying to put all the pieces together and make sure that parts are moving in tandem with each other. So I think that's working pretty well so far.
For sure, yeah. We've heard lots of celebrations are happening.
Yeah.
And really coming forward, coming towards you.
For sure.
Great, that's great. What is something you wish someone had told you? So let's pretend like before Sketch, before your early years, what do you think you would like to have had somebody tell you in this journey?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and I always, my question is always, I wish that somebody had told me that, you know, the arts is a viable career. Like, as I was growing up, you know, getting into like the non-for-profit and arts world, you know, I was always like not told that this is a way you could go. Even in high school, even in like college or university, I didn't think this was like a thing that you do for a very long time, that you could build a career into it. And so I wish somebody had said, you know, just you being an artist and you being an arts administrator, like this is a viable career, and to like push forward a little bit more and have some more faith in that. And so yeah, but I'm glad that I let my internal voice kind of guide me this whole time.
Yeah.
And I knew that I would end up somewhere that I really loved, that married my love for art with, you know, my love for helping people in community. And so that's where I find I am now, and I'm really excited that I stuck to that.
Me?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So now that the executive director handover is complete, do you feel the transition outcomes are what you hoped for them to be?
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, part of what you said around just the celebration of the change and the shift and the focus, something that you know that we've been on this journey a lot longer than what it seems, because it takes a while, but also you know, with COVID coming into play, it slowed it down. So I'm just glad that we're now here and it's happening. It's good for everybody. It's good for the organization. And I think it's really good for the sector to show. I think watching and listening as you explore and develop the relationships and even in the day-to-day decision making, you know, making some pretty strategic decisions already, you know, seeing that happening is really exciting, because it just demonstrates that we made the right decision. And but also just that we're not afraid to say, like what I see happening is you're not afraid to also ask the questions.
Yeah.
Right? So that if you don't know something, you ask. And I always did that, so I really love seeing that in the person who's gonna be in that role again. And just the collaboration that you bring, like I think that's so great. And the lens that you bring as an artist to this role, but you have the capacity, the ability to do both, is so exciting for this role, because that's not something I brought to the table. So I think I think it's just really a good move for Sketch and a good move for the sector. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. My turn. So I think that it is hard to describe to people what the challenges are as an executive director. It's not until you're actually in the role, I think, that you really, I always felt like you can't really know, because you hold so much and you hold it from others. That's part of the job, is you're holding things that other people don't necessarily know, or should know, or should be worried about. So are there some of those experiences you're having already in the role, and like what are they, and how do you feel like you're managing those?
Yeah, so one challenge for sure that I'm experiencing is the shift in accessibility to myself. I am an on-the-ground artist. In most of my roles in the sector, I've been really accessible to folks on the ground, you know, participants, staff, that kind of stuff. And now I'm just finding that there's definitely been a shift in this role around like how accessible I can be to people, not because I'm up here now and like don't talk to me, but just because there's just so many things coming at me at the same time, and I'm trying to prioritize those things to hold up an entire organization, and I may not be able to be as accessible in the same way, in the same capacity that I want to even be, because there's just so much responsibility in this role, and it's just little old me, and I, you know, trying to do it in a sustainable, healthy way, at the same time modeling that. So just really dealing with that kind of shift and being okay with it. I think the other challenge around the executive director role is being, finding my peers in this class, I guess. I do have some peers in this class for sure, but you know, some of them are executive directors of all Black organizations, or there's other organizations where executive directors are still, you know, not folks of color. So I'm like finding myself landing in the middle of that and just kind of trying to navigate that and where I fit in as an ED of this organization. So well, I think you're holding that really well, especially in these times when it's being watched as well. Like we're very much being watched as we go through this change. So where I just want to ask, do you get stuck? Do you experience any points like where you go, okay, this is something, and what I mean is like, do you see something and say, wow, this is a reflection of what's happening in society or in our sector, the arts and, you know, culture sector, in community-based organizations? Like, where do you think, or where do you feel maybe getting that you can either foresee getting stuck or that you've already experienced being stuck? I think in terms of more on the philanthropic side and just shifting the idea of charity and charitable giving, and like moving an organization like Sketch, or having an organization like Sketch move folks to give in a different way. I think that's one of the places. I wouldn't say I'm stuck yet, but I can foresee it being a little bit of a challenge coming out into the future, because people are still like, the charitable model is a charitable model, and we kind of sit in that, but also sit a little bit outside of that as well. And the more we exist, I think the more we try to sit outside of that model. And so just trying to explain to somebody what we do, how we do it, why you should invest in it. And particularly right now, when you're trying to talk to somebody about that and you don't have that many people in this space, you don't have the hustle and bustle, and you can bring people down and see the energy and feel the energy, because our space is like closed or limited actually right now to what can happen in it. I find like that's a little bit of the challenge, to be able to talk about sketching that way, in a way that people can see that and understand why we're asking you to invest differently in Sketch. So I think that's one of my foreseeable challenges, but I'm excited to break over that hurdle. That's just like another barrier that I'm really excited to kind of change. And I hope that Sketch will be a model as we move and change that, so that we change kind of like the overall idea of philanthropy for other organizations that might also be stuck in this one.
Awesome.
Okay. What about you? What excites you the most about this transition process almost 6 months later? So I know you were excited at the beginning when you had asked me, because you know, things were coming and you're getting ready and you're going to go away and all that. But now that it's 6 months down the line, are you still excited about the transition, and what is it that is exciting you?
Yeah, I mean, I am excited because I can see now, I can see a vision of this new, circle of young, higher energy, a little more energy than at my age, potentially, although I still have energy, but I don't know how to describe it. I think it's a little bit lost for words, but in your head, you know how you still feel like you're somewhere, and then when you visually see it, see this group of young people gathering and looking at each other and saying, okay, here we are, and you're leading that, and then there's, just this movement towards, and you can step back. It's an interesting feeling to feel more like an elder in the group, and that you can stand far enough to hold it. And I think the challenge is that when you have founded something or been part of the founding team, certainly, I've been with Sketch long enough to watch it grow from its baby stage to where we are. So I think you have such a deep connection and care for it, but that should actually say something to you as well, that we know it's in great hands. Like, I know it's gonna just move in the right direction. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about the partnership we've developed through this time.
Yeah.
Like, I think we've had a really great, great co-learning. As much as, me sharing stuff with you, I've been learning a ton. And I think transition in this sector is underplayed and under-resourced. And usually these organizations in real struggles, for a period of time. Even with people who bring the most skills, it's challenging at this level, like at the community level. So that's been really exciting to be part of that, a really healthy transition.
Yeah, it's great. A lot of transitions at this level can really, if not done well, leave an organization spinning and having to catch up. So I don't feel like that has happened here. So that's, I think, a good sign so far.
So I would like to know and hear a bit more now that you have been in the role, really almost, you've been in it officially 6 months, but participating in it for almost a year, actually.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of what your vision is for Sketch going forward?
Yeah, well, I think Sketch is just such a special and very magical place. And I think that what gives it a lot of that magic is the space itself. Yeah. So for me, I've been always vocal about this, is that when we're talking about processes of like reconciliation, decolonization, Sketch has this ample opportunity, because it's purchased the space and it owns and can now leverage that space to give back some of that space to QT BIPOC communities. So my total vision for Sketch is to see the space fill with leaders, artists, community members, from those communities in particular, and everybody else as well, just utilizing the space to its full capacity. And that doesn't have to be fully run by Sketch. I think that we can invoke some really creative partnerships with folks and say, here, like, have this resource that is so scarce in the city right now, and work with us to support the same folks. We're supporting the same folks, so how can we work together to do that? So I think for me, that's like my top vision at Sketch. Like, how do we become more ingrained in the communities that we want to serve, and how can those communities come inside our space and make it a communal space?
I want to just jump on that a little bit. Like, when people talk about the energy of Sketch and the environment of Sketch, it's also very, it brings its challenges. And what do you think the magic is and the messy is?
I think the magic's in the messy, to be honest. I think Sketch is a playground that we get to like have messy, chaotic, sometimes like uncomfortable conversations, but something about the way in which we organize and run the space allows those things to be contained in a way that we can actually take our time to like navigate those things and work through them in a collaborative and very respectful way. As much as possible. Sometimes things are more challenging than others. Sometimes we're going to get called out on things because we didn't hold them well. But I feel like we're a place where folks can like figure out who they are, how to navigate the world that they're living in. And because we're inviting different communities, those communities are going to have a really cool place to like figure out how to work with each other, where there are challenges, but then where there are also benefits. So,
exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So given that amazing vision, what do you think you need to have in order to be the most successful you can be in this role?
Yeah, so first and foremost, for all you investors out there, we need funds. We need the investment in the young people that are going to be filling up this space for sure. And like high engagement from the community and supporting us in being sustainable, because we're not sustainable, then we cannot be the platform that supports and helps to carry a lot of these organizations and leaders and community artists. So that's the first thing. But I think after that, I think I need some time and space and some openness for collaboration with folks. Like, we, want to figure out the different strategies to engage different communities.
Yeah.
That takes time. That takes trust.
Yeah.
So taking that time to have those conversations, to have folks feel good about coming in to sketch and being part of like what we're trying to create here, going out to communities, seeing what they're doing, being part of their spaces. So I think there's going to be a lot of time and trust building. That is what's going to be needed for success. And then also time for myself to like really acclimate to the role. 6 months is not a long time as an executive director if you haven't been one for such a large organization before. And so I'm really looking for time to like develop myself in that role, change that role, challenge that role, the status quo of what that role means even in the sector. So it will take a lot of time, I think, to be successful, and then openness from folks for me to make mistakes, for collaborations to work and collaborations not to work. Yeah. So a lot of understanding and patience and investment in this thing that is sketch. So I think if we have that we're gonna do some really great things. And
I just want to say that I think, as someone having held the role in various organizations, but mostly in sketch, that we have a responsibility to support that, to be in the background and support that and encourage that or else we won't see the kind of change happen that needs to happen. But I'm really excited about that. So knowing that I have your back, or anytime I am on the Paulina go list. So
this is my cheering squad.
Cheering squad. Yeah, well, you just go through, and I think many people can relate to it when you're, I certainly did that, if there was more opportunity for people to build a relationship, it doesn't have to always be friendship, but relationship in the transition, it just makes such a difference, because there is no school of executive directors. There's no, people are learning by the seat of their pants, and we don't have the opportunity that they do in the for-profit world, that people go for these big leadership. There are some, but it's, again, when you go to them, you're going to them alone. And, it's different than when you can kind of do it on the ground. So it's been pretty exciting to do. What is the piece of advice that you would give someone pursuing, like you're looking at now, other people coming up, if they were going to be transitioning into this role, or any other kind of, any kind of leadership, decision-making role? What advice would you give at this point? I want you to mark at this point, and then in 5 years, I want to ask you the question again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say first and foremost, be vocal. I think that's what's been a huge part of my success, vocalizing my fears, vocalizing my needs, vocalizing when I need support, vocalizing my successes. Just be vocal about what it is you actually need, and don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't need to know everything from day one. It's a transition, hence the word. You are transitioning into this thing. A caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly in 30 seconds. It takes a little bit of a while for it to build its cocoon around it, build its wall of support before it opens up and starts to bloom. So that's going to take a little bit of time. So be vocal about what you need. And then the other thing is just know who your mentors are. Know who you can reach out to and talk to, particularly, for me as a racialized leader, imposter syndrome is a really big thing for me. And so you need those folks who you can bounce that off of, and they can bounce back how to validate yourself and remind you of who you are and your greatness. Yes. Right? And that what you can do and why you were chosen, or why you are in that space or in that role. Yeah. So make sure you have that good mentorship and cheering section behind you, because you will need that on days you feel like you're dropping every ball, to remind you that it's just a day. It's not your whole career that you're dropping. So those are my two pieces of it.
I think what would be the last thing I would want to say is that I wanted to, thank you for trusting the process.
Yeah.
Knowing that we'd never done this before, and just trusting me as someone who, we both come from very different experiences in life, and having been here for so long, somebody else might not have been as open the way you've been so open, so that it's just been really great and fun to do. At the same time, it's, like I said, it's made it feel like it's been a really responsible and respectful way to lead the organization. So I'm really grateful for who you are, but again, it's just that little feeling in the belly, and I would share that with you to say, trust that little belly where it says, okay, wait, there's something here happening, there's somebody here I need to work with, and you'll find that as you go, especially in the next few years,
Yeah, well, I've absolutely enjoyed this process, and I think it's such a great model for other organizations to follow. Like, if you are, white leadership that is seriously thinking about how to shift the status quo, how to move folks into positions of leadership, one of the things is you don't just thrust people in there. You guide. I think it's really the responsibility of white leadership to also guide folks in, racialized folks in, hold their hand, introduce them to the folks that they need to set them up for success, because nothing's worse than kind of bringing in racialized leadership under these like tokenistic kind of ways, and then they kind of fail, and then folks are like, aha, see? Like, so I think this really sets me up for success, and I really appreciate that piece of the process and what it's doing for that part. So,
yeah.
So Rudy, looking back now, after a year, is there anything about the transition process that you would change?
I think the one thing I thought of was to be able to, I'm a big planner, like I like to plan things ahead, and I think because I was entering a world of not really having done this before, or I haven't done this kind of transition with anyone before, but I think that I would have liked a couple things actually, to have gone a little deeper into each of the areas of like in my mind, I would love to have said, okay, every month we're going to have a retreat day together, and just sort of also have some work planning time, both for, I think partly just to kind of give more emphasis on being able to to experience and step into the role a little bit, and planning out before going into something, and because there's some pretty big projects still ahead that if we had sort of allocated a bit more time to development, I think I would recommend that next time. But other than that, I feel pretty good, considering it's the first time. I like the balance of, and it seems you have too, that okay, heavy on, and then, or just going kind of slow with handing things over, and then going away, and then coming back and kind of closing it up. That's felt like a good flow, but I think I would do more intentional development days. Yeah. My turn. How do you think, it's a pretty significant change because we've been in these roles so long, and how do you think it's impacted the whole organization? How would you qualify that?
I think that I feel like people are embracing change. They are excited about the shift that's happening at such a high leadership level. I think that they are excited about where Sketch is going and how it's going to get there, right? With this new person in play, with this, including even the space purchase and everything like that. Like, a lot of new transitions have happened at Sketch, and I think this is one of them that has just left people questioning, but also left people with an excitement about what can be a creative kind of energy of what can happen for the future of Sketch. I mean, it's unfortunate also that I think our space has been closed for so long, but as we move into reopening, I think that also again adds to that energy and that fervor of like sketches shifting and changing, and like there's a big example of that at the executive leadership. What am I going to do? Like, where do I fit in? What's my possibilities now? And I think it opens up that question of like, what's possible.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to tell people lots of things are possible at Sketch. And I'm really excited to explore that with community and see what's going to happen and where we're going to go and what direction we're going to take it.
Yeah, it's exciting. So there's a lot of the foundation is there to then, kind of take it to the next step, which is great. Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you have moved from executive director, but into kind of a new role at Sketch. So I just want to ask you, what excites you most about this new role, and what are you looking forward to in the future with it?
Well, I'm so grateful for, having the opportunity to be able to explore deeper. So when you're in your role, it's very much you're focused on the day-to-day and operationalizing, and it is harder to kind of look to kind of dig deeper into certain things. It just doesn't, you're not allotted that kind of time or headspace. So what I'm excited about is the development of an initiative that would allow us to do that and allow Sketch to do that, to allow participants to go deeper in their leadership, especially. Like, where do young people go once they've sort of reached the end of our leadership component? What is next that once they've made the decision to really drive their lives forward into careers or school, whatever it is, what can we provide that opens up the potential and possibilities for themselves, whether that be having their own initiatives in communities to respond to issues that they're seeing, or whether it's through an educational opportunity. But what I'm most excited about in that is that's what Sketch runs those programs, but letting people know the impact that Sketch has. And so being able to be out there and talking to individuals, sharing the methodology to proliferate, not franchise Sketch, but be able to proliferate, and to work in collaboration on a larger level, right? On a bigger level with other organizations. I think I'm really excited about doing that. And about talking about sustainability in this field, like, and pushing the edge of that a bit more. We did that with Project Home. We've done that with programs, and I think looking at financial sustainability and getting some of the just being able to shift that concept, as you're saying, around what is charity and what is investment, and how do we start to merge that better so that organizations can continue the incredible work they're doing in their communities, and that is feeding into the health of the city, province, and country. And so we need to figure out ways that people can invest in that. So I'm excited about really looking at social impact financing and investments, and bringing that knowledge to a broader spectrum of people.
Oh, that sounds so fun to jump into this new world and explore. So that's really cool.
I know, it's going to be messy and fun.